I'm Lily. Today I'm going to read your story, The Longest Winter in the World. Reading it level 3C, The Longest Winter in the World. Okay, let's read it. Most people have heard the story about George Washington and the cherry tree he chopped down when he was a little boy. But not so many know about the trees he and his soldiers cut down to build cabins for shelter against the bitter cold of Valley Forge during the American Revolution. George had grown up to become General Washington. He had been picked by his countrymen to lead their armies in the struggle for freedom from English rule. In his headquarters at Valley Forge on a freezing winter night, General Washington picked up his square pen and wrote by the light of a candle, "We have this day no less than 2,873 men in camp unfit for duty because they are barefooted and otherwise naked." These were sad words for a general to have to write about his own army, but they were true words. His soldiers huddled under these thin blankets were shivering with cold. Some were sick or were hungry. Many did not have shoes. They had to wrap rags around their feet when they walked in the snow. Some had sticks instead of guns. Some had guns with no bullets. How could such soldiers win a war and free their country? George Washington must have wondered, especially since many of the American settlers weren't helping him with the war. Many of them did not want to be free from England because only a few miles away people lived in warm, snug houses. They had warm clothes and plenty to eat. So many of them did not want to be free from England. Ah, I understand them. And they trimmed their Christmas trees and they sang and danced at the parties. And only 20 miles to the southeast, the England soldiers, the redcoats, were snug and warm in Philadelphia. They ate and drank and danced to the sparkle of candlelight and music. In his saddest, General Washington must have thought back to the Christmas night of the year before. That too had been a cold and bitter night. The snow had been so thick that the men could hardly see, but that was the night Washington and his ragtag army of farmers and shoekeepers had made their daring and dangerous crossing of Delaware River to try to catch the enemy by surprise. Great chunks of ice had floated into the river, banging against the small boats and threatening to sink them. The wind had howled and the snow had wriggled, but silently Washington's soldiers had kept rolling the boats. On the other bank of the icy river, the Hessians, enemy soldiers paid by the English, had eaten well of Christmas turkey and ham and cheese and rich mince pie. They were not expecting an attack in such cold and stormy weather, and so they had gone to sleep, not worrying about anything. General Washington and his army had won their first battle at night, but now, a year later, the war still had not been won. Mm, Still had not been won, and one of his bitter cold night at the Valley Forge, it looked as if it could be. But Washington did not give up. A Prussian officer helped him train the army, and they drilled night and day. Out of that desperate winter at the Valley Forge came an army that was strong enough to last to win the war for freedom. Freedom. So on November 55 in 1783, the last English soldier sailed away from America. And on April 30, 6 years later, that's 1789, General George Washington, the hero of Valley Forge, became the first president of United States. Ah, okay, done. Today I read the story The Longest Winter in the World. Okay. Okay, bye.